Did Star Trek Voyager 7 of 9 have Borg powers? When Star Trek Voyager introduced 7 of 9 in Season 4, the show gained one of the franchise's most fascinating and complex characters. Played by Jerry Ryan, 7 brought new life to the series, both narratively and thematically. A former Borg drone severed from the collective, 7's journey aboard Voyager became a compelling exploration of identity, humanity, and trauma. But beyond the character development and social commentary, there's one question that many fans have debated over the years. Did 7 of 9 retain Borg powers after she was freed? The short answer is yes, sort of. While 7 was no longer connected to the Borg collective and had many of her implants removed, she undeniably retained certain Borg abilities. But Voyager wasn't always consistent about the scope, strength, or origin of these abilities. The show walked a fine line between depicting 7 as a superhuman and as a vulnerable individual reclaiming her humanity. Let's dive into what Borg powers 7 retained, how they evolved throughout Voyager, and what this says about her unique place in Star Trek lore. 1. The leftover tech. 7's implants weren't just cosmetic. Even though the Doctor removed a significant portion of her Borg technology after her separation from the collective, 7 of 9 remained heavily augmented. She retained key implants around her eye, hand, and along her spine, and these weren't merely cosmetic remnants. One of the most obvious powers derived from her implants was her ocular implant, which gave her advanced visual capabilities. This included scanning electromagnetic fields, detecting life signs, seeing through walls in certain cases, and interfacing with technology, advantages that no other member of the Voyager crew possessed. Captain Janeway and Chakotay often relied on 7's enhancements during difficult missions, especially when sensor or tricorder data fell short. In addition, her nanoprobes remained active in her bloodstream. These microscopic machines, standard for Borg drones, were powerful enough to regenerate tissue, interface with machines, and even resurrect the near-dead under the right conditions as seen in the episode Mortal Coil. The Doctor would often use 7's nanoprobes as medical tools or even defensive weapons, indicating they were a potent technological asset that bordered on superpowers. 2. Superior strength and endurance. Though Voyager rarely leaned into this for action scenes, 7's physical abilities far exceeded those of an average human. In The Raven, we learn that 7's musculature had been enhanced by her time in the collective. She could handle extreme temperatures, endure longer without rest, and in some episodes like The Killing Game, she displayed raw physical strength that gave her an advantage over even Klingons. This strength wasn't consistent across every episode. It wasn't as blatant or exaggerated as Marvel's superhero powers, but it was always there in the subtext. Whether it was surviving long-term radiation exposure, resisting physical torture, or shrugging off injuries that would incapacitate others, 7 frequently showed that her biology was no longer entirely human. 3. Borg knowledge and multitasking capabilities. One of the most important powers 7 retained from her Borg assimilation wasn't physical, it was cognitive. Because of her time in the collective, 7 had access to massive amounts of data, including knowledge from thousands of assimilated species. This made her one of Voyager's most valuable strategic assets. Whether it was engineering, alien diplomacy, or astrophysics, 7 could recall knowledge and processes far beyond the scope of Starfleet training. Her Borg-enhanced brain also enabled multitasking on a nearly inhuman level. In the Omega Directive, for example, she handles complex containment protocols with speed and precision unmatched by the crew. She often completed work that would take a Starfleet engineer hours or days in a matter of minutes. This ability to recall, process, and apply advanced data in real time often felt like a superpower, and the writers leaned on it to solve narrative problems, sometimes too conveniently. 4. Direct interface with technology. Another quasi-superpower of 7's was her ability to interface directly with computers and other systems. Her implants allowed her to connect with alien technology and Voyager's own systems in ways that would be impossible for other crew members. In Scorpion, Part 2, she connects with the ship's systems to disable Borg control. In other episodes, she links to holographic or virtual systems, interacting with them on a deeper level than even the Doctor can. This ability blurred the line between person and machine. It made her a walking, thinking, self-aware control interface, a living embodiment of the Federation's techno-idealism meeting the Borg's terrifying efficiency. But it also raised ethical and existential questions. How much of her autonomy was compromised by these abilities? Could someone so deeply merged with machines ever be truly human again? 5. The power of the collective. Without the collective, there are moments when Seven seems to channel the collective without being part of it. This is especially noticeable in episodes where latent programming kicks in the Raven 1, or when she's exposed to Borg signals and begins behaving as a drone again survival instinct. In Infinite Regress, Seven begins experiencing the personalities of individuals the Borg had assimilated, a condition caused by lingering connections to the collective's neural residue. While this made her unstable, it also suggested she still housed deep, fractured pieces of Borg consciousness. The implication was clear. The collective may have let her go, but it was never entirely gone from her. This in itself is a kind of power, the ability to access echoes of the collective's immense memory network. It was also a burden, and the episodes that explored this conflict between identity and programming were some of the show's strongest. 6. Emotional control and social limitations. While it might not seem like a power, Seven's emotional detachment, at least early on, made her uniquely resistant to psychological manipulation, emotional distraction, or the kind of social tension that often afflicted other crew members. Her Borg background had trained her to suppress emotions, focus entirely on the mission, and evaluate problems with cold efficiency. In high-stress situations, Seven remained calm, almost unnervingly so. This made her a brilliant problem solver, especially in crises. However, this power also worked against her, especially when it came to reintegrating into human society. Star Trek Voyager cleverly flipped the trope here. The very traits that gave her the edge in survival and logic also made her deeply alienated from the people she was trying to become a part of. 7. The downside of her abilities. For every advantage Seven retained from the Borg, there were corresponding downsides. Her nanoprobes could malfunction, as in one, where her enhanced physiology made her uniquely vulnerable to a sensory deprivation experiment. Her implants also made her the target of alien scavengers in the Raven and cybernetic viruses in Drone. Perhaps most tragically, Seven's abilities isolated her. No matter how much progress she made in reclaiming her humanity, she was always a step apart from the crew. Her physical and cognitive enhancements came at the cost of intimacy, spontaneity, and social fluidity. She was often seen as the other, even by those she had come to care about. 8. Was she still Borg? This is the philosophical crux of the question. If Seven retained so many abilities, from her nanoprobes to her implants to her neural architecture, could she truly be considered free from the Borg? Voyager argued that what mattered was not the technology,